What is this piss froth? I need muscle. Will you heed my call to war? Good. Go! Get up!
You are both gigantic.
Is that promising?
Do you ride your horse into battle, or does it ride you?
I drink and I know things.
Welcome back to Flagons and Dragons. I'm Jamie G, the host with the most. I'm back in Westeros with Magnum Mills to talk about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the second spin-off of Game of Thrones. On this episode, we're breaking down the second episode of Season 1, Hard Salt Beef. Sounds pretty tasty.
Yeah, I mean, so far, you had some Hedge Knights, some hard salt beef. I wonder if all 6 episodes will have titles that would also work if they were the title of a porno flick. Stay tuned and find out. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Flagons and Dragons. We really appreciate it. Show is presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find our content wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff and on the web at dudeswatchstuff.com. Simple and easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please press that thumb.
From this point forward, there are going to be full spoilers for this episode and all aired episodes of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. And this does include after shows, podcasts, articles, interviews, the whole ball of wax, shaboom, shaboom. We're going to do our best here to avoid major spoilers for the original novella, as well as Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. And if you don't know, now you know.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
This is Hard Salt Beef, Season 1, Episode 2, the second overall episode of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Originally aired January 25th, 2026. Once again, directed by Owen Harris. He also directed the series premiere, and he'll also be directing Episode 5 of this season. Written by Ira Parker and Aziza Barnes. Once again, Ira Parker is the showrunner. He also wrote the first episode. The short plot synopsis is: Dunk appeals to various lords in order to gain entrance into the tournament, but Egg advises him to hold on to his pride. When the Targaryens arrive at Ashford, Dunk seizes his moment with Prince Baelor. Jamie G, episode 2, we're already a third of the way through the season here. Kind of overall thoughts, overall impressions of this one. We're getting to our grades towards the end, but did you feel like this was a continuation of the first episode? Do you think it was a little bit of a step up, a little bit of a step back? How did you feel, no pun intended here, about the hard salt beef?
Yeah, it was the hard salt beef. I felt really good about it, actually. I think it was a step forward. I think they built off of episode 1, but certainly took a big step here in just kind of where they're going with this thing. And I got to be honest with you, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm really liking this so far. It's fun. It's quick. It's hilarious. And I'm just really liking kind of this world. It's so much different than what we've seen out of this universe so far when we go to the realm. And I think it's because of that, I love it so much. And that's not to say I don't love dragons and I don't love White Walkers and I don't love huge, crazy, intense things that are happening. I think this show could have some of that, but man, it's just a good time.
I think this episode did a good job of highlighting how different it is. Like when the Targaryens roll into town, we're watching them come in instead of being in the wagons, right? Or being up top with the lords watching them come in. We're down on the ground with the small folk. Same thing for the beginning of the tournament, right? We'd always be in the box or with the contestants, and here we're in the crowd with everybody else. So I think it does a good job kind of setting up like, yep, we're in this world, but now this is kind of a completely different viewpoint. And I really like this because we did not get very much from the view kind of the small folk. The closest you'd come would be like, again, minor spoilers, but like, the Hound and Arya on the road, or maybe just Bronn kind of coming from his upbringing, that sort of thing. But we didn't get a lot of this. And that's one of the parts I was most excited about. And I think they're delivering on it, right? We are getting that more of a street level view of Westeros.
Oh yeah. And it's fun. I mean, anytime we got to see kind of, and it was always something crazy. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but when we got to go into Flea Bottom, for example, because you were following somebody else or something, it was cool. And I always wanted more of that. I kind of like the vantage point, man. I really do. And it's kind of neat in a way because, the Dunk is so tall. He's towering over everybody. It's kind of neat to get his viewpoint here.
One thing I was kind of thinking about after watching this once, if you had a choice and you could go back and like zap your brain Would you rather come into this not having seen any of the other Game of Thrones shows, or do you like the fact that they are kind of trying, to build on the existing universe here?
I do. I like that they're kind of, they're building on it, but they're making their own way. And I think that's what's most cool about this is it is very much so stands on its own here, from the other shows.
Yeah, that's because if you came in from the cold, right, you would have no real expectations. You'd have no idea what to expect. Maybe you could say, oh, you'd heard of Game of Thrones or something, but you have really no idea, what's going on. And if you just got thrown into this show with no previous knowledge, I still think it works, right? Like obviously, I think we're supposed to, you hear names, right? Obviously the Targaryens, but even the Dondarrions, the Tyrells, you know what I mean? They're obviously trying to give some callbacks to the original show, and I think they're doing a good job of giving that to the hardcore fans while also making it, very accessible for people who really don't have as, much in-depth background in the show, right? Because there are a lot of people just casually watch Game of Thrones, right? They didn't get on the internet and do a show about it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and so we have to try to kind of remember, that perspective as well. If I could have two little quibbles, and I'm not even sure they're quibbles, but I mentioned it, we're about a third of the way through the season. We finally got really our first action here with the introduction of the tournament. Are we taking a little bit too long to get to the fireworks factory, or do you think this is about just right?
I think it's about right because you're getting some really good character development. You're getting more of kind of the background story here with the flashbacks that they use. And again, we talked about it a little bit in after episode one. I really like what they're doing with the flashbacks. I think it works really well. So you're getting a little bit more kind of that and just kind of his whole, just him getting in the games, I think was a big deal and worthy of kind of seeing how it unfolded. So I kind of like that. I mean, I could see the other side of it where people might think it's a little slow, but to me, it's been entertaining so far.
They did enough here. We had the big party towards the end of episode one, and then here we get the tug of war, and then the first kind of round of the tournament. So that was enough. So I think just the fact that even though Dunk hasn't gotten in on the action, they've given kind of us enough to work with. I like how this episode, the first episode, obviously you got to do a little bit of setup. You got to ease us into this world. Here it felt like they threw us right in to the deep end, with the introduction of all these Targaryens. Do you think they might have gone a little bit too far, too fast? I mean, pretty quickly, Dunk winds up in a room with basically, other than, the one guy we met last week, a plumber, it's pretty much all new characters in that entire scene. Like, we got to remember a lot of Targaryens here. Was that a little bit too much, too quick, or are you just glad that they kind of just got it all over with, hopefully?
I'm okay with it. I mean, I think for myself, having gone through season one of House of the Dragon, it made it a lot easier because not only did we have a million Targaryens and they all looked the same, all their names were very similar. So I kind of got used to that a little bit. So I think for me, it's probably a little bit easier than, if somebody who maybe hasn't watched some of those shows. So for me, I'm okay with it. And these really didn't look necessarily like the Targaryens we're used to, which was kind of cool too.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So, while the names sound similar, here I think they do a good job of making the Targaryens look more distinctive. Maybe it's because there are various age ranges, but again, we're used to, again, House of the Dragon, man, they all have the same long white hair, basically, right? So it does make it a little bit different, difficult to tell between them at the times.
Yes, and I also think too, because it was also kind of a subtle way of reminding us this is a Targaryen dynasty right now that doesn't have dragons. So, kind of that classic look that we all know. I think that we can kind of relate that to like Targaryen with dragon. This looked a little bit different, and they're ruling right now without dragons, which is an interesting thing too.
Yeah, it's kind of a time of peace in Westeros, but they are trying to figure out kind of, what comes next, so to speak. So let's not jump that far ahead. Let's just kind of go through the other stuff, the episode. I think right at the top, we have to address the elephant in the room, or maybe the elephant in Sir Arlen's pants. What do you think here, man? This was a choice to open up the episode, right? If you watch the inside the episode, showrunner basically said, like, look, we're going to spend most of the episode with Dunk kind of realizing that, like, maybe, his idol wasn't the greatest dude. So, like, all right, we'll give him Monster Dong. Like, we give him a big hog. It's kind of compensating for us kind of shitting on him the whole episode. Do you think that was a fair trade? Because, I mean,
Yes.
say what you will, this is what people are going to remember about Sir Arlen of Pennytree, right? This is all, oh, yeah, the dude with the dong, right?
Yeah, I mean, dude, like built like a tree trunk here, dude. I absolutely love this. And I actually like too, now this is 2 episodes in a row. We get kind of a shocker opening. Week one, right? It was him having explosive diarrhea, which I mean, he had, I mean, if some of that was like further than a shot put throw, dude. Like he had length and volume on that diarrhea, dude. Like it was he had distance, okay? And then this week we get I mean monster hung dong with an old guy. It was such a weird contrast. Not saying old guys can't be hung. It just was so weird, and it was hilarious. And big fan of what they did here. I like this 2 weeks in a row. I hope they keep it going, man. I hope they keep it going.
Well,
Surprises
I've
next
read the
week.
novella, but I can safely say this was not in the novella, so I can make a prediction here. Is this a rule of threes? Because we had coming out one orifice, coming out the other orifice. Someone going to puke to open up next episode? Because I think that pretty much has to be all that's left to happen here, unless they're going to blow some monster snot rockets.
Or, it's HBO. It wouldn't surprise me if like somebody's giving birth. I mean, you just never know. I mean, there could be other things. So we'll leave it at that. But it will be interesting to see.
I mean, maybe they could do some kind of crazy universal tie-in, right? Because I think HBO is now owned by Warner Brothers, who owns DC Comics. So maybe you do a thing where it turns out like Sir Arlen is originally like an ancestor of Alfred Pennyworth, like a Batman's butler there. Like he was like Sir Arlen Menigirth or something like that. And eventually, they became the Pennyworths, and that's how they hooked up with Batman and Bruce Wayne and everything like that. So, I think we can make that work. In that scene, the one thing I did think was cool, in addition to obviously, great good of you having a big hog, dude. All the kind of battle wounds, right, on Sir Pennyworth,
Yeah.
like they gave you a good idea to see him. Like he had obviously the real big one on his arm, but if you looked, dude was just scarred everywhere. Like it did, I think, a good job of illustrating like this is a hard life.
Including an open wound too. Like he not
Yeah,
only
the
did he
one on
have
the arm
scars all
there,
over, he
yeah,
had
that
an
was
open wound that he was actively dealing with that they went to once or twice during those flashbacks. I wasn't sure if that's I'm still not sure ultimately what killed him, but definitely open wound there for sure.
kind of a nice touch the way it opens, and it feels kind of like Dunk might be narrating the flashbacks, but it's really him telling the story to the other knight. So I thought that was a nice piece of kind of editing in transition there. The one thing you did notice though, like Sir Arlen could not really offer Dunk much of a challenge. Like how much do you think he actually could have taught Dunk? He's going into these competitions here, like has Dunk ever like practiced with a lance before? Like, we don't really have any idea of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he gave him much. I think he probably tried, and it makes me wonder if some of those wounds were actually from Dunk, right, accidentally. Because you kind of come to grips with the fact and learn that he wasn't much of a swordsman or a gamesman in terms of his knighthood. So he wasn't very good with the sword. He wasn't very good at the lance and all this kind of stuff. So be interesting. And then he has this huge dude in Dunk, right, who maybe is good at it. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think we're all excited to see him. I think I speak for all fans. We're excited to see Dunk kind of do something, right?
Yeah, in action. Of course you would be. The one when you got the little bit of the training thing, Dunk just knocks him down easily. So, but we also did hear that he had a lot of grit, right? That's who Sir Pennyworth was. Like he wasn't the best, but he never, embarrassed himself, right? And Dunk is kind of
Right.
proud of that. But there's something to be said for that. Maybe you call him like a crafty vet if he was, on a 34-year-old NBA player or something like that. But if he passed that down to Dunk, that's a good combination, right? Even if Dunk isn't classically trained or has that much experience, if you could combine his size with at least that kind of grit and determination, that should get him fairly far, right? At least give him a fighting chance, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, that story where Dunk's talking to Baylor and talking about, kind of like remembering Sir Arlen here. I thought it was awesome. I mean, the four lances, the seven, that whole thing. But you could tell like he had his respect because he never quit and he was a tough out, right? And there's something to be said about that coupled with his size. You never know, man. As the man says, he intends to win.
He does intend to win. I'm not sure if everyone else just came to watch him or not, but let's come back to that in a minute. Just to finish this out, they kind of bookend the episode with Dunk, obviously having this conversation with the other lords as he's trying to get some verification, someone to vouch for him. And then at the end, you have the conversation he has with Egg, and it feels like he comes to the realization, like, yeah, maybe he wasn't as good as I made him out to be in my memories, but that's how we always kind of think of adult figures, family figures, our idols, something like that. We put them up so high, it's easy for them not to be able to clear that bar. But then he does land on like, look, but he also did take care of me. He treated me like family. He was generally good to people. Maybe he drank a little bit and wasn't the greatest night, but he still wasn't the worst dude. And he seemed kind of legitimately offended that outside of Baylor, no one remembered his name, right? So it feels like that might be maybe a little bit where he kind of draws some determination and motivation going forward. And maybe he wants people to remember Sir Duncan the Tall.
Yeah, I think so. I think kind of the way they went out with this episode, he kind of had a little bit of like, woe is me. And then I think he used it to be like, I'm going to show the world kind of thing, which I kind of like that, man. As an athlete and stuff, like that's kind of cool when somebody can flip the switch like that. So I'm rooting for him.
He got the Westeros equivalent of bulletin board material right there, right? Just going
Yeah.
around to everybody, like basically just giving a, oh, who, well, we're not who, her, you know what I mean? When like whenever you get the stuff like someone pretends they don't really know someone's name or whatever, all those kind of like slights, real or imagined are. Mentioned it, you got into it a little bit. We met a lot of Targaryens here. I thought we got a couple of fun scenes here when they arrive with Dunk and Egg. We got a lot of this in the trailer. The whole bit with like Dunk's going to send the dogs after him if he steals the horse, but like he doesn't have any dogs. Like all of those exchanges were in the trailer, but it set up the pretty great scene I thought with the Kingsguard here. What'd you think of the Kingsguard here? We've seen various versions of them in both other shows so far. What did you think about the two Kingsguardians we met here?
I actually enjoyed this because this kind of gave you, we've been so far removed from kind of royalty, right? And like high, lords and noblemen. It was kind of cool to get back into that a little bit. That was primarily what we have in the other series. This series, it's on the opposite side of that, right? So I thought it was pretty cool to get back into that, just see kind of even just like the outfits and everything and how they talk, and really enjoyed it.
I absolutely did as well, and I thought that the look was pretty good. You know what I mean? They looked and talked and sounded like the typical Kingsguard we have met so far. In the Targaryens who arrived, we've got Baelor. He is kind of the heir to the throne there. You've got Maekar, he's missing the sons, and then Bright Flame, Prince Aerion is kind of the dude who's got like the Jaime Lannister was it season 3, season 4 haircut. Like it's a little bit awkward or weird, right? Jarring to see a Targaryen with basically like an 80s Wall Street cut, kind of
Yeah. Yeah, it
with the
was
side part and
kind of like
everything.
where's the long locks, he just didn't have any. So
And dude, where's the security? Like that was the easiest sneaking into a secret meeting ever, right? Like Dunk kind of just follows that one lady down the hall. And like he is not a dude like it was built for stealth mode, right? If it was a video game, like his stealth attribute would be extremely low because he is a gigantic dude, not particularly, cat-like or quiet or anything like that. And I thought that was great. He's like when he's in that scene, he's kind of hiding behind the thing, but not really hiding. And someone just kind of like sees him, and I thought it was a pretty good setup, but maybe a little bit too easy to sneak into this like very important meeting, right?
yeah, I mean, we've always seen. I guess we're so accustomed to like the Knights Guard, roaming around the halls and stuff. It's just not that easy. But this one was pretty easy. I was surprised he was there as long as he was before he was saw. I did enjoy the scene with him and the little girl basically telling him exactly what it was, where he's big and dumb and he's gonna get caught basically. And yeah, he did.
Yeah, solid job of the exposition there. We find out that Maekar is missing his two sons, Daron and Aegon. And if you did note in the credits, if you go on IDB or whatever, Daron is the Targaryen we saw at the inn in that first episode. Remember, there was a really drunk Targaryen who just kind of like already hammered, goes upstairs. That's Daron. So we know they're alive. So no spoilers there. That's kind of putting two and two together. Do you think, again, I can't really say too much, but it feels like they're bringing this up for a reason, right? They're going to go somewhere with this.
Yeah, they are. And I don't want to give any spoilers here, but there was a couple of things that I saw during this that kind of were clues as to where they're going with it. Um, am I good to say them?
Well, let's say we'll not go all the way if you somehow missed it, but if you even have looked at some of the promotional materials or whatever, there is a twist coming in the season. It's probably not going to be that big of a surprise. That's one thing in the books. It was a little bit tougher to pick up on. I say books, but it's really a novella. But you could be forgiven if you didn't pick up on it right away here. I think they are kind of trying to telegraph it a little bit here. I thought everything with Baylor was actually great, right? I like how he finally remembered Sir Pettytree, and obviously not only remembered him, like he seems like that dude that knows about everybody, right? Like Tyrion used to kind of be like that, right? Remember when he would be quizzing Pod on all the sigils and the banners and everything like that? Like I really like Baylor. He seems to honestly be the probably the nicest Targaryen we've met to date, right?
100%, dude. Like he seems like he's going to be a great ruler. I love his temperament, and yeah, I was a big fan, man. He's a child of history too. Like you could tell he enjoys being smart and remembering things and having, kind of like the ability to articulate stuff. Much different than his brother.
Yeah, again, the student of history reminds me again a little bit of Tyrion here, but I think they're doing a good job of setting him up as obviously like, oh yeah, like we would hope like this guy becomes the king, right? Like he will be a good one. Dunk even kind of speaks to that effect here. You mentioned it before. Do you think it was 4 lances or 7 lances? Like Dunk seemed pretty sure about the 7. Baylor is like, no, I'm sure, your guy exaggerated. We've seen Sir Pettytree maybe be a little bit exaggerating. Like, what do you think? Was it 4 or 7?
I think it was probably 4, but I do think that Dunk heard 7 and remembered correctly. So in his mind, it's 7, right? Because that's what he grew up knowing.
And it's kind of weird that, when you're
7 would be
watching
a
them,
lot. 7 would
yeah,
be a lot
well, 37 will be a lot, especially consecutively, but at 7
in a
is
row.
is a lot. But you do see in the later scene, like they have those racks of lances. It feels like there's 8 to 10 lances on there. So I
Yeah.
guess 7 is not like insane, right? It's like, oh no, there's never been 7 lances broken before. Like it sounds like it's on the high end of the projection. The under over is probably 2.5 or something like that. So 7 would be huge, but it feels like it could be a thing. And there's a lot of shows these days, so it's funny when you find like crossover here. I've been watching the 5th season of Shoresy, which is a random Canadian hockey comedy spinoff of Letterkenny. But they're doing a whole thing about building a culture up, and a big thing is knowing people's names. It's funny to kind of see that come back around here. And in that case, it's like know all your support staff, everything like that. Here, it's like, well, know your foes, know your potential competition. But I think both are really important, right? Like it's never a bad idea to familiarize yourself both with your friends and foes, right?
Not at all. And you read any history book, man, it's know your friends and know your enemies better. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that is a little art of war right there. And Dunk kind of always calls himself out for not being the smartest. I think he's a little bit more quick-witted than we would give him credit for. If nothing else, he has pretty good common sense. But for the most part, he does a good job of just coming off as real kind of like genuine and surface level, right? And I think that's working for him here. Like if he sneaks into like tents and meetings like this, most of the time you would think people would get a little bit more like apprehensive, like, wait, what are you really doing? You know what I mean? But for the most part, he seems to win people over fairly easily. Do you think that's like, is it just because of his size? Maybe they're subconsciously intimidated, or do you think he just kind of comes off as like, a not the brightest but very well-intentioned guy? So people kind of just instinctively want to help him out a little bit because he's getting some help here, but I kind of buy it.
I do too. And I think one of the big things here is because of his size, it plays so well with the fact of him being, I would just say, rather simple. And because of that, I think people feel at ease, like they know how to read him and he's genuine. And I think that plays really well into everybody kind of like trusting what he's saying and being willing to help and kind of like, all right, we kind of know what this dude is, right? And I think that's the big thing. So whereas if it wasn't, if it wasn't for kind of that, I think he could be intimidating and people might be like, what are your real intentions? And again, this is such a breath of fresh air because we didn't really see any of this in Game of Thrones or really House of Dragons, right? Everybody's got a kind of a hidden agenda, and sometimes it feels like with Dunk, he really doesn't.
The closest we come is probably, Jon Snow, right? For the most part, but that's again because he is probably about the lowest character we know because he's a bastard, right? So if there's anybody who comes close to kind of having that perspective, it's probably him, and it makes you want to root for him. I mean, I think they do a good job of also contrasting between Baylor and his brother Maekar. It was just kind of like over this shit. Like at one point when Dunk's like trying to like tell Baylor, "Oh, you'll make such a good king" and everything, he legitimately just kind of snorts. I thought they did a good job of kind of emphasizing the difference between these two brothers, right? It's, what I think Tyrion said, what did the god say every time they make a Targaryen, he flips a coin, like it could go either way. And it feels like these brothers could be the different sides of that coin, right?
100%. And it looks exactly like that, man. It looks exactly like that. I mean, and they did a good job kind of portraying that here. And I actually think it's kind of nice though from a viewership standpoint, just because you're getting a little bit of contrast here, and we kind of needed that a little bit. It's everything can't just be rosy all the time. So it's nice to get a little contrast.
Yeah, we get Targaryens who they look different. They sound a little bit different. They have different aims. Names still kind of similar, but we'll take kind of the wins that we can get here. Maybe one of the funnier parts of the episode, for me at least, was this bit, where Dunk is trying to heap praise on Baelor, but then he kind of realizes, like he might have implied, like he hopes the king dies so Baelor can be king, and then he tries to backpedal real quick. I don't know if that was very effective backpedaling, but I definitely kind of laughed my ass off at that one. Did you find that funny, or was that like Dunk being maybe a little bit too dumb, like late season Homer Simpson?
Yeah, I mean, he played it off well enough to where it was kind of funny. I mean, and again, they're trying to tone, bring down his character a little bit so he's not super intimidating. And I'm hoping that's all for the setup of, he's basically Jon Snow taking on a whole army out there in the Battle of the Bastards or something like. I want to see him go absolutely ham, absolutely nuts, and just like destroy somebody on the battlefield. So I'm hoping that's like the epic setup for that.
I mean, Dunk is just basically like Jon Snow crossed with Hodor a little bit, right? And well, I
He
mean,
really
I
is.
guess maybe we figured out maybe Sir Pennytree is an ancestor of Hodor. Maybe that's something they have in common there. They both like to hang dong by trees, so who knows? We come back to the puppet show once again, which was cool. And do you remember we actually, I believe, had a mention of Florian the Fool in Game of Thrones. Do you remember that? It was a little bit of a runner there for a minute. Or at least we had a fool on the show, right? Do you remember?
Yeah, we did.
Dantos, who tried to help Sansa. I won't go any further than that. But he often mentioned Florian the Fool, and at least in the book, she referred to him as like he referred to himself to her as like her Florian or whatever. So we
Hmm.
have heard of Florian the Fool before, so I think that was probably a little bit of an intentional callback. And then we get the whole bit. We meet, get a little bit of an introduction to Tanzel, also a giant, just like Dunk, and he has to get his own sigil now. What did you think, man? I actually give props to Sir Pennytree's sigil here, the joint with the chalice and the horses. That was kind of cool. I was actually kind of sad to see that one go. That was actually a pretty cool sigil, I thought.
It was, and I'm curious to see what the new one's going to be here. But it was pretty cool, man. It was a little bland. It could have used a little color pop, but it was cool.
Yeah, just throw a little Buffalo Bills Zubaz in there, right? And
That would have made it better.
that'll probably, do you good, or at least for Jamie G. And they do this a couple of times this episode. We saw Dunk, like when he was leaving the secret meeting, go the wrong way. Here he goes to leave without leaving his shield to get painted. Again, is it a little bit too much, or they kind of, they on the good side or the bad side of the comedy line here?
I think the good side. I mean, again, I think this show has a couple different types of humor so far, right? It's got kind of like this good old, wholesome type, fun, and then it's got like some absolute hilarious lines and and phrasing and things that's just very funny with certain characters. So I'm liking the mix here.
Well, I mean, talk about an epic pickup line. Like, I've never seen such giant puppets before. Did you make them yourself? I mean, try that one out at the bar at happy hour and see how far it gets you. It might be a good one. It might not. But that sets up what, spoiler, it may or may not be one of my favorite scenes of the episode. We get the tug of war here, our only appearance from the laughing guy here, for the laughing storm from Sir Lionel Baratheon, just comes in like a bat out of hell to get Dunk to participate in this tug of war. And obviously, you want Dunk on your side, right? Even if it means you have to take Egg with him. Like, Dunk is enough to offset. You put him at anchor. I honestly thought he could just fall over and take the whole other side down, right?
Yeah, I love this little bit of action here, and I thought it was cool, with him kind of really digging in, and there's some, he didn't have the best footing, man. There's mud and puddles and everything, and yeah, really enjoyed this scene here, and it kind of our first time seeing just the sheer strength of him.
Yeah, and it was just well shot. Like, I mean, obviously, Lionel like leaving it midway through because he's thirsty, and then coming back
Yes.
at one point. Like, Egg is just hanging, like literally just hanging on the rope. Like he is just a dead weight to his side. His feet aren't even on the ground. They're just having to carry him. And then the little celebration at the end, like Dunk literally tosses him. He's got him on his shoulder. Like, all that was just cool, right? And it had like the music. It felt like almost again a little video game, like almost a little Zelda or like Lord of the Rings in here, right? Like nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it, just a little bit of a slightly different feel, but I think it's working because this isn't as heavy, right? There weren't a lot of stakes here. You know, we don't know what really happened to the loser. I mean, because it doesn't matter, right? The idea was just like, here's we're going to do this fun little thing. It doesn't have to be a lot to it, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, 100%. And you got to kind of see them bond a little bit more, right? And realize how good they are together. You got a little bit of it in episode one. You got even more of it here in episode two.
And dude, we love our epic names, be they of television, movie characters, golfers, what have you. Where is Steely Pate on the just the pantheon of names here, especially when you look like that? Is where as it is, I was getting like I
It's up
got
there,
little
dude.
Gen V vibes from this episode. Remember in the second season, Gen V you had the dude Vicor, like the Viking looking dude. He reminded me of Steely Pete, and then Sir Lionel Baratheon reminds me a little bit of Cypher too. Maybe it's just because they have the same curly
It
hair
does have a
and
little
that weird
cipher
kind of
in him.
energy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, again, it's just picking out kind of crossovers from the shows I've watched recently. But it was just really weird that I got like heavy Gen V vibes in this kind of like back third of the episode, but in a good way.
Yeah, Steely Pate, dude. I'll probably just like create an email and an alter identity and just use that one. It's awesome. Big fan of it. And yeah, I definitely got a little Cypher vibes from Lionel, but in a much better way. He was funnier, I
Yeah, the
guess.
fun Cypher. The fun,
Fun
he looks
fun
a little
side of
bit like
Cypher.
Hamish
Yeah.
Linklater with the curls and everything. So, it's
Right.
probably subconsciously a little bit of that. And here's a little like, do you think, Steely Pate comes off as a very real dude, another dude who does Dunk a solid, right? He agrees to kind of take the other armor and give him a little bit of a discount, but he says he's armored bigger before. Is he serious? Because Dunk is supposed to be like the biggest, just about.
Yeah. He is. And I, it made me wonder, right? I was like,
I
who
have no
could it
reason to think he's lying. All I could come up with is he's gone into the way north, like not north of the wall, but that far north where they still have like people who are descended from giants or something. That's about all I got. That's the only thing I could come up with where it would even be feasible.
Yeah, I mean, he's supposed to be huge, right? So, but he did give him a real crazy look though before he said that. So, I believed him. I believed him, but I'd
No,
like to
I
see.
believe he's in luck, right? That the best armorer in the entire country is there, and he's willing to do this rush order on this armor that'll never fit anybody else. So if he makes this and Dunk doesn't show up, he can't like sell this. He says he's going to sell to the next. I'll sell my wares to the next man, but he's not. He's going to have to take this metal back apart and start over again. Because there ain't no one else that big, right? I thought we've established this. He is
Yeah, he's
very,
gonna
very,
he's gonna
very
have to melt
tall.
it down and redo it.
And dude, we finally got a really sad scene here, right? When Dunk sells the horse, dude, legitimately
Yeah,
sad, right? Like that was, I felt like someone having to like, give their pet up to a shelter because they're moving for a job or getting deployed overseas or something. Like, you know what I mean? It felt
yeah.
like really, really like I didn't want him to have to do that, but it made sense from a plot standpoint. He needed to go.
Yeah, I didn't either, and you could see his connection. It's a little bit like Tony Soprano, like the way he connects with animals, right? It was nice to kind of see that, and make sure she gets some oats and an apple tonight, man. Yeah, definitely. And I believe him when he says, "If I win, I'm gonna come back and buy you back." Like I definitely believe that.
Okay, I was going to actually ask you that in predictions. All right, so you're on record saying, if possible, he is going to come back and repurchase the
He's gonna
horse.
try.
Yes, that seems very in line with his character. And then we kind of get into the tournament before it. We do have a couple of short scenes, or at least one here. They were spread out a couple of short ones between Dunk and Egg, where they're just kind of hanging out, eating and drinking a little bit and talking. And this one is when Dunk's kind of like particularly being like, oh, if I'm a champion, right, even for a day, maybe some house will hire me, like maybe even the Targaryens. And Egg shuts that down real quick, and then Dunk starts talking about the dude on the Kingsguard, who's like, oh, he came from Crabbers. It's like, yeah, dude, he came from Crabbers because his dad owns like half of the crabbing boats in Westeros. So I thought it did a nice job of kind of, undercutting Dunk's idealism a little bit there. But then he also asked Egg, like, well, how do you know that? And Egg just says, well, I like fishing. Do you think there's more to that, or just Egg really just like fishing?
No, there's absolutely more than that. Egg has a ton of intellectual prowess and knowledge about the realm far greater than what Dunk has, even though Dunk's a knight, right? And so I think that really speaks to why they work so well. Egg is super polished and knows his shit, even though he's just a little kid. And so there's something to it, right? And you know, obviously we'll find out.
Like I'm trying to come up with even a close equivalent to Egg. It would be like maybe like he's 9-ish, 9, 10. So it'd be like what a fourth grade kid, knowing not only every state capital, but their state bird, their state song, the current governor, both their senators. You know what I mean? Like we have yet to see Egg stumped, right?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to phone a friend. He knows it all.
Yeah, he knows it all, and he has again smartness beyond what he leads on to, I think, and I just believe his intelligence even goes further in his way with words and his way to not manipulate Dunk, but kind of like stay in. He has hand here, right? He's got hand,
Yeah, he
and
got himself into this situation. He, for better or worse,
yes,
is exactly where he wanted to be, it seems.
yes,
Then we get the tournament itself. I think this is another great job of illustrating the size of Dunk when he puts Egg on his shoulders. Because then you see, like, he's already like about a half a shoulder and a head taller than everyone. But you put Egg on, then Egg's just towering. But meanwhile, Egg by himself was like down, like, waist height to everybody else. So again, it sets up the excellent dichotomy between, like, you have this huge dude and this tiny square, which Egg even points out, I'm a little bit puny even for my age.
right. He is, and
How about the jousting itself? I thought this was really cool. It again, this I don't even know how this would be a spoiler, but in my recollection of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, we've never seen a tournament like this at night. Like I thought this was really cool. I don't know. Again, I can't quite remember if this is exactly how it's staged in the novella or not, but I thought it looked excellent. So even if they did it just because it's cheaper to do the CGI at night or something like that, I thought it looked really cool. I'm not sure again how much of this was practical or not. But this is kind of like we've never seen multiple jousts at the same time, right? It was always like the finals. It was like one-on-one. Really cool to see all the chaos that was going on with the multiple participants, right?
Yeah, I loved it and I thought it was exciting and fun. And again, getting it from that perspective and at nighttime people are, getting drinking and getting riled up and stuff. I very much so enjoyed this.
What did you think about the dude who bit the head off the fish? Are you like, was that a little bit too much? Or are you with Egg? Like, yeah, I don't know about that.
It's pretty disgusting. I mean, it's, at least it's a fish. It would have been worse if it was like a rat or something, right? Like at least you can eat raw fish. But yeah, it was interesting. You're right, a bit much, but we'll see. I mean,
See, a better look if he would have been like prepared in a way that he could have like bit the head off clean or something like that. It would have looked a little cooler, I think.
yeah.
I don't necessarily think it was the worst move. He just needs to work on the prep a little bit. And
Yeah, I
we
mean,
got
he's no Ozzy Osbourne out there, right?
yeah,
I mean,
exactly, dude. And which that was actually not planned, but yeah, don't also get your rabies shots for that. And we have yet another Targaryen here, Prince Valar. That's Baelor's son. I couldn't help it. Just I'm like, oh, what? So we're getting Prince Valium now? Like I didn't. But Prince Valium from Spaceballs, he could have been a Targaryen, right? He had the hair.
he did have the hair, and he had the, I guess, disposition. Yeah, I'm kidding.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, God, shout out Spaceballs. I can't wait. Spaceballs 2 is in the can. Can't wait to see Rick Moranis came out of retirement for it. So can't wait to see it. And it was kind of I'm not sure if Dunk was in the position he couldn't wait to see this. Like Egg really into the games for the most part here. But at one point, like it seemed like Dunk started out nervous. By the end, do you think he was in like full on panic attack mode thinking about it? Like, because he gets a couple of flashbacks to burying Sir Arlen during this. Like, do you think he was like legit kind of having almost a panic attack here?
I think he was having a realization of, oh wow. I mean, these are people who have been training for this and like have all the proper stuff and come from great houses and this is a big, huge to do. It's kind of like you go through everything and then you step foot on the football field and you're like, oh, and you look at the stadium and you're like, oh wow. Okay, this is going to be different, right? And so you just a little bit of a twinge there, but I think as we saw at the end of the episode, he worked through it.
I mean, this is basically the scene from Bad Boys 2 when Mark is like, shit just got real.
Shit
Like
just got
Michael
real,
Bay,
dog.
you know what I mean? Like that would have been fun. Like, this is the fun thing about a show like this. They could do like a random, like, let's do a cool, like, Michael Bay 360 shot or something like that. Like, you never do it in Game of Thrones. Here, they might be able to get away with it a little bit. So I think that's kind of cool. It gives them some optionality. We kind of talked about the final scene already. Dunk seems to kind of like find some motivation in this and people kind of dissing, Sir Pennytree. But the one thing I worry about here, the only time we saw Egg get a little apprehensive was when they were doing the handoff with the lances and everything. Because think about it, that's what Egg has to do. Some of them lances have to be just about the size of him, right?
Yeah.
So he's got to at least be a little nervous about that. Like, we don't know if he's done this before or not.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal too, right? Like, because you are kind of depending on that.
Yeah, caring for the horses and cooking food is one thing. This is out literally, it's not quite life and death, but it's pretty close. Like, you mess up bad enough, you could die. We saw dudes almost get trampled. I mean, they're definitely doing a good job, I think, of setting up the stakes here.
Yeah, and for Dunk, it's probably more so than anybody else because he doesn't have this is all he's got, man. It's not like he's got a plan B. So he's out here literally, this is it. If this fails, who knows what he's going to be doing.
Yeah, there really is no like Chumbawamba for him. If he gets knocked out, he might not get up again. I mean, he get up again, but he won't have a horse and armor, and that's tough to start from square one.
Yeah, he's got to hope they can never keep him down, dude.
Yeah, never going to keep him down. I mean, given his size, you need at least a solid score of people to sit on him or something. Maybe not a full dozen, but it's going to take some work to keep Sir Dunk down, I think.
Well, I think we're ready to kick off the award tour here, starting with our favorite alternate episode titles. Hard Salt Beef, it could be the title of many things, including my memoirs. It's a decent episode title here, but Mills, can we do a little better?
Before we do the alt episode title, let me just ask you, if Hard Salt Beef was a musical artist, be it a group or a solo artist, what genre of music would they play?
Dude, the first thing that came to mind was death metal.
That probably makes sense. I can see it kind of being a rapper name. As weird as it is, and just because I do this with you, I'm like, oh yeah, that could totally be the name of a Fish song, but that's not a genre of music. I'm gonna go with like some hardcore like electronic house music or something like that.
That works too.
You gotta like that. People got to do the hard salt beef, right? That sounds like also a dance.
Yeah, you got to do the hard salt beef.
Yeah, that HSB, dude. That HSB. Got the HSB. And we got a couple of alternate episode titles here. Again, this is probably a decent enough title, but we're just going to have a couple of fun here. First up, shout out Egg. We have a real lance hole. Egg was willing to say, hey, take his arsehole to the lance hole. So a real lance hole. And Jamie G liked the heavy metal, so why not? How about Mistress of Puppets? A little shout out to Tansel here. The Mistress of Puppets, not quite the Master of Puppets, but the Mistress of Puppets. And then you could also do a little nightclub here, dude. It's not Knight Rider, it's more like Fight Club. I mean, his name was Arlen Pennytree, dude. It's not quite Robert Paulson, but it's pretty close. But then obviously, my favorite alternate episode title is a callback to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Sir Arlen of Thundergun, because you know what John Thundergun does? No matter what movie it is, be it the first one or the sixth one, the man hangs dong. Sir Arlen of Pennytree certainly hung dong. So there's our alternate episode titles: A Real Lancehole, Mistress of Puppets, Nightclub, and Sir Arlen of Thundergun. Jamie G, do you have a favorite from those four?
I mean, I don't want to miss that, man. I got to go with the real Lancehole here. All of them are excellent, but a real Lancehole is just hilarious, and one of the funnier parts here, and it works very well.
That sounds like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode title for what it's worth.
Yeah,
it's good. Curb
but good creativity with Mistress of Puppets too. That was very
nice. Mistress. I mean, she's a giant too, so giants got to stick together.
That'll be on the Stranger Things spinoff. Next up here on the award tour, we're highlighting our favorite moment or scene from Hard Salt Beef. Mills, I'm up first here, man. I got to give it to Dunk and Egg watching the initial round of the tournament here. I just thought this was shot awesome. It created a level of excitement and buzz, and you got to see kind of like Egg like really into this, and then Dunk kind of like just like deer in the headlights a little bit with just pure amazement, right? Like a coming to life moment for him. Like, I can't believe I'm here. It just created a lot of excitement. I thought it was filmed outstanding. The way we got to see it, and it was fast paced and dangerous, and very cool, dude. For like back in that day, that's probably the best sporting event. I mean, that's basically the Super Bowl, right? So thought it was awesome.
They did a great job of showing the scale of it, right? Because some even the early Game of Thrones stuff, it seems smaller, right? Because you'd only kind of see the rush past the one little point. Here, the way they zoom out and you see all of it, the crowd, the box, all of the, the various participants. I thought that was really cool and gave it a real nice sense of kind of size and scope. We've already kind of talked about it. Probably no surprise here. We got to get Sir Lionel in here. My favorite overall kind of scene was just the whole tug of war bit. That was a ton of fun. Literally a ton of fun, a tug of fun. Have a fun, a ton of fun, making a tug of fun and fun of rum. I have a little bit of rum. It'll be a good time. But either way, yeah, that was my favorite scene. No diggity, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with tug of war, dude. Good call there. Sticking with our favorites here. Next up, we've got our favorite quotes from Hard Salt Beef. Mills, it's your time. Go ahead.
You know what? I got to give it up for Egg having a little bit of a potty mouth here.
You were a knight of the realm, sir. You can say fuck their permission right into the list, call out Longthorn Tyrell, and turn his arsehole into a lance hole.
That's enough now.
Jamie G, what do you think? A Longthorn Tyrell, any relation to Foghorn Leghorn?
There should be. I think it's distant relative for sure here, if I do say so myself. I do.
Oh, you saved
I
it there.
do.
I thought you were going to say, I say, is how you have to start it out, but you ended with, I do say so myself, so we will accept that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Man, I've got to go with my guy here, Sir Lionel, dude. He's just hilarious here with the what is this piss froth, right? As he slaps it away and you can see the froth. What is this piss froth? I need muscle. And then again with
Try those palms, you clam-handed cunt. We're not in your sister's chambers now.
the alliteration with clam-handed. Nobody loves a clam hand. This is certainly going to be the name going forward.
So yeah, you got to pick one here. You want piss froth or clam hands?
I gotta go clam hands, dude. I just something about
Fair
it.
enough. I mean, clam hands sounds like something like that whole line feels like something you would have heard on the trading floor in Wall Street in the late 80s or something like that. You got to get on those orange futures, dude.
Instead of doing rankings or just handing out an episode MVP, we're changing things up for a Night of the Seven Kingdoms. For each episode, we're each going to give our dynamic duo. Mills, go ahead and remind everyone how this one works.
Kind of like a two-tier MVP. Each episode will be giving our knight and our squire. Our knight is our favorite between Dunk and Egg. It feels like every episode, obviously, those are the two characters we're going to see the most of, so we have to pick our favorite of those. And then our squire must be anybody else we want, basically. Only rule is you can only take a character twice as your squire. Obviously, there is no limit to the number of times we can take Dunk or Egg as our knight. In episode 1, I went with Dunk as my knight and Sir Lionel Baratheon as my squire. I'm switching it up here for my knight. I'm going with Egg. Dunk, once again, had a little more screen time, had a little bit more to do, but man, Egg had the lines. Per capita, our guy was spitting fire here. Obviously, very, very smart, knows what he's doing. So I'm going with Egg as my knight. And then as my squire, this was a tough one. I think I'm going to go with Baelor Targaryen, dude, because he was just like really righteous. I mean, we don't get a lot of that in Game of Thrones. Like, maybe there's another hidden layer here, but for the most part, he seemed to be the straightest shooting Targaryen I have ever seen. So, to me, that's worth it as my squire. I've already used Sir Lionel Baratheon. He was great here. Had I not used him already, I would have considered him. But since I've already used him, I'm going with Baelor Targaryen. Jamie G, episode 1, your knight was Sir Dunk, and your squire were the camp girls there, the redheads, the camp followers, whatever you want to call them. So who do you have for episode 2 as your knight and your squire?
Yeah, for the night, I agree. I got to go Egg here. I think this was a little bit of a coming out party for him. Really enjoyed this episode for him and kind of cemented himself as, it's so hard to do for kid actors and everything. We talk about this in a bunch of different shows. Thought this was a great episode for Egg here. I really did. And then for my Squire Mills, I like Baelor. I thought about it, but I was like, you know what, man? When am I ever going to be able to give it up again for just the man, just the main vein here of Sir Arlen of Pennytree, and it's not just for that giant hog that we saw at the beginning of the episode here. I liked the flashbacks throughout the episode, kind of telling his story a little bit more. Doesn't matter that he drank and he whored and he wasn't very good at swordsmanship. He was still Sir Arlen of Pennytree, and I enjoyed the flashback here. So I'm giving it up for him this week for my squire.
So JBG says about 75%, giant hog, and then 25%
Yes.
other deeds, which is fair. I mean, that was a weighty hog there. So, shout out Sir Arlen, Sir Arlen of Diggler here. I mean, not quite sure how many other superlatives we can put on him. Sir Arlen of Tripod. I mean, the man made an impression, put it that way.
Yes, he did.
Maybe an elephant impression even.
The final stop on the award tour is our episode grades. We're grading each episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms on a scale of 0 to 100 flagons of ale. Mills, no piss froth here. What are you grading this thing?
We don't want any of that, but my guess is by the end of this fiscal year, there will be some sort of micro beer, local beer with some piss froth available. So go ahead and check that out whenever it comes out. The first episode, Jamie G, I was at 84 flagons of ale. I think I'm stepping it up a little bit here. I'm not going to go crazy. I enjoyed the first one. I think I'm going to stick right at 86, just bumping up a little bit here from 84 to 86 flagons of ale. You were a little bit lower on the first one, but still living pretty good here, right in that solid B range. You gave 80 flagons of ale to the season premiere, to the series premiere. What do you have for episode 2, Hard Salt Beef?
Yeah, man, I wrote it on the paper. I'm sticking with it. I too am 86 flagons of ale.
As Green Day said, there's no return from 86. So let's get into little predictions here. I have read the novella, so I can't do too much. We will be spoiling, however brief, the teaser for the third episode. And Jamie G, nice to see Sir Lionel in there partying, but let me ask you, we don't see it explicitly in the teaser here. Do you think we're going to actually get to see Sir Dunk fight in episode 3?
Feels like we kind of have to here, but part of me wants to say all the money is on yes, so I'm going to be a sharp and say no, we're not going to.
See, we do see Egg carrying the lance, though, right? We do get that shot in there. So that leads me to think we're going to see it. I think we probably need to at this point. Do you think, like it implies here that he's going to fight Arya Targaryen, fight the Bright Flame here? Do you think that's what's going to be the case? Or do you think that's a little bit of a misdirect?
I think that's a misdirect. I could see that being like the final battle if he makes it that far, right? Like I could see it being that, but I think that's a little bit of a misdirect.
Okay, and we heard Dunk kind of tell, Baelor he's so great because when he defeated Sir Arlen, he gave him his armor and his horse back to not accept ransom. Do you think there's a chance that this comes into play, be it for Dunk like beating somebody and then electing not to, like just to give them their stuff back without ransoming it, or perhaps Dunk loses and someone gives him the same courtesy? Do you think that's possible?
I think it's possible that he gives the same courtesy, particular to, Sir Baelor here or Lord Baelor here to kind of honor Sir Arlen, right? Like and honor his legacy and maybe that good because Dunk seems like the guy that believes like a good act like that will lead to something happening for him, right? And maybe that he gets his wish, going to work for the Targaryens or something.
Yeah, like if you're at the drive-through and someone starts like a pay it forward thing, like Dunk's not gonna be the one who breaks that up. Like he is gonna be the one who pays it forward, I think. It just seems to be who he is. And he talks about that's what Sir Arlen instilled in him. So it seems like it would be, a good way to honor Sir Arlen through Baelor, who, if he's telling the truth, it seems like Sir Arlen really did seem to think was like a legitimately good dude. You've already mentioned you think Dunk is going to buy back his horse. What is up kind of with the missing Targaryens? Do you think that maybe Dunk is the one who finds them? Do you think this is going to play like a bigger part? Or do you think this is kind of more of a background thing that's maybe setting up some future stuff?
I think it's going to play a bigger part. I just don't know when. But at some point this season, I think towards the end of the tail end of the season, I think it will set up something huge that maybe ties into how they're going to go into next season.
Yeah, you can't have this many Targaryens without kind of something being up. And, here we always kind of talk about when we pick up on some BE, some banging energy here. How about Sir Dunk and Tanzel here? I mean, they're both giants. Like, Dunk has a great size. You're just the right height. I mean, are they trying to set something up here? We see just a brief shot of her, in the teaser.
I think so. I mean, we saw it in episode one. He had the eye for her, right? And then, here he has the courage to get up and talk to her and everything. And there's definitely some BE floating around there. So I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna say that dog hunts, baby. It's got legs.
That dog hunts. He says, "All right. How about Sir Unlimited Pennytree? Was this it, or will we see even further flashbacks?"
That's interesting. I think they've had so much success with it. I think it tells a big part of the story of Dunk, and I think they kind of need it. I think it continues.
I feel like we have to at least see when he actually dies, right?
Yeah.
If nothing else, I feel like they've kind of like shown us like before and after that moment a little bit. It feels like we kind of have to see the the main event, so to speak, I guess. So, do you think Egg will prove to have what it takes to be a squire for Dunk here in a tournament?
I think it's going to be epic, but yes, I think somehow, some way, it looks like all odds are off, and he's not going to be able to do it, but then he does, dude. And I think it's going to be that big kind of epic moment this show is going to have, which will be really cool, right? And you'll be cheering for him, kind of like a Rudy moment, right, where he does it.
Yeah, and then they can pick him up and carry him off on their shoulders like Rudy at the end because that's what you
Yes,
get if you do it correctly. So final one here, Dunk's first fight. Will he win or not?
I got to go with yes. I got to go with yes, dude. I
I
can't
mean, it's a
not.
television show, everything we've seen. It is a tournament where to get to multiple rounds, you do generally have to win to advance, right? So you would think, we got 4 episodes left here, so you would think there will be some advancement going on. So that's what we're thinking, and we will be here talking about all 4 of those episodes, probably wrap it up after that, and then before you know it, it'll be time for House of the Dragon. That's how we do it here on Flagons and Dragons. Thank you very much for checking out the show. Any predictions, anything you liked, anything you didn't, please let us know in the comments on social media, all of that good stuff. Flagons and Dragons is presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find our content wherever you get your pods and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff, same place on the web, dudeswatchstuff.com. Simple and easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please remember to touch that thumb.
Until next time, keep your flagons full and your dragons hot.